And of course, we said, no, you can't do that. No, the Libyans, we don't think they know that we're intercepting their communication. And surely, even if they suspected it, they don't know that we're decoding it. So that would sacrifice that lucrative source. And Reagan, to his great credit, said, do it anyway. And we did. And the message said, attack successfully carried out at 1:30 this morning, and the best thing is that no one will ever know we were responsible, end quote. So what we did was release the message. Do we sacrifice the source? Yes, we did. But Reagan, in that instance, I don't know how to... I'd say he showed a decent respect for the opinions of mankind, okay? Now, please don't misunderstand. I don't like the notion of leveling palaces and killing children just to get their daddy. But by the same token, it was not seen anymore as capricious or shooting from the hip. There was a legitimate grievance. We did know that the Libyans had done the bombing. Now, sorry for the long-winded analogy here, but what is to prevent Barack Obama from releasing that disputed, intercepted message, the Syrian army talking to one another? There's nothing to prevent that. And with each day that goes by, David, that he doesn't do that, that leads me to suspect that the reason he doesn't do that is because it's far less conclusive than what the administration has been describing it as. There is lots of evidence on both sides. The business about sarin, the nerve gas. The administration is saying, well, sarin, nobody can get sarin except governments like Syria's. Wrong. 1995, a ragtag group of terrorists in the Tokyo subways spread sarin around. So there are a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of the kind of embroidery and exaggeration that we saw before Iraq, the Iraq War, the attack on Iraq. And so we're suspicious, and we think that the American people are due more than one of these, trust me, we're the government, just give us trust. And the more so, since the head of national intelligence now is a self-confessed perjurer before Congress, having lied about whether NSA is intercepting our telephone conversations, and then having apologized, sort of, by saying, well, I told a, quote, least untruthful thing, end quote. So that's the head of our national intelligence, and he's still in office? Yes. John Brennan, the head of the CIA, I know him. I worked with him. I wouldn't trust him to walk my dog. So it's a lot to ask, especially given the example of Iraq and the example of these two known prevaricators, to suggest that we take their word for it. In some measure, this has become a little bit academic now, because the Russians sort of floated this proposal. They put the strong arm on Syria, and it looks like peace has been given a chance. But it was pretty itsy-kitsy there, so to speak, and the evidence is not, as everybody assumed, conclusively in favor of the notion that Assad himself authorized whatever happened in those suburbs of Damascus.
You know, Ray, I think it's really interesting that in this particular instance, you know, we walked right up to the brink, looked over the edge, and then turned around and walked away. Now, that did not happen by accident. There's no two ways around that. And definitely the role of Putin and the Russians in this cannot be denied. Tell us about that. I mean, at one point I can remember seeing it in the news where Putin was being quoted as saying, if you attack Syria, you know, we're going to start going after some of your allies. I mean, this was an opportunity, I think, for this thing to really blow up way out of wherever it should have been. Tell us a little bit about how you see the Russians' role in all of this.
Well, those are really good questions, David. The first one pertains to what changed the president's mind. Now, on the 30th of August, after Kerry got finished explaining the case for war, as he did, we believe, 35 times, it was sort of like a done deal as far as everybody was concerned. The president was going to speak in the Rose Garden the following afternoon, And the bets were 90% that he would be announcing, even as I speak, cruise missiles are on their way to Damascus to blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? He changed his mind. Now, I have sort of done my intelligence analysis kick to figure out how it came to be that he changed his mind. And there's very strong evidence in the president's speech on that Saturday afternoon itself to indicate what was behind his change of mind. I had that piece of paper in front of me here. Let me see. Here it is. Okay. Now, what he said was this: we are prepared to strike whatever we choose. Moreover, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs has indicated to me that our capacity to execute this mission is not time sensitive. It will be effective tomorrow or next week or a month from now, and I'm prepared to give that order, period, end quote. Whoa, new element introduced here. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs tells me that I don't have to do this today. See, the thinking, David, was that he wanted to get this done, this limited, what Kerry called this unbelievably small cruise missile strike. He wanted to get that done before he went off to Europe for the G20 summit, have it a done deed so that he didn't have to encounter lots of arguments against it. Well, all of a sudden, between John Kerry's big speech at the end of August 30th until the early afternoon of August 31st, the president changed his mind. Now, why do I mention what he said about what the chairman of the Joint Chiefs has said? Because it was very clear to me from the things that General Martin Dempsey had already said that he went on record purposely to say this is an act of war. Now, no matter how small, no matter how big, he said in writing to the chairman of the Armed Services Committee of the Senate, this would be an act of war. What does that mean?